It's championship weekend, and everybody is a Bills fan and a Commanders fan, right? It's NFL squad time.
You are talking ball with the NFL squad, sponsored by Gametime. From the Chiefs to the Bills, Falcons to the 49ers, and everyone else around the NFL, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming weekend for hard-hitting football with our harder-hitting takes. Buckle up, it's the NFL squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings allowed. Squad up, you're part of the NFL squad.
And welcome into this week's NFL squad. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready for another wild week of action across the National Football League. Of course, all of us are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and we're doing this episode today thanks to FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers, you bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets, even if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. We are joined Cody Rourke, Locked On Broncos, Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys, Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers. What is that cup? What does that cup say? Nice.
It's bleach.
Kevin Oestreicher of Locked On Ravens, Damian Parson of Locked On NFL Draft. And no Bills fans, Joe is not here, but we are talking plenty about your Buffalo Bills, so stick around. Plus, if you watch the episode on the Locked On Bills channel, it actually still helps Joe. So you can actually do Joe a solid. We know you guys love Joe as much as we do. So you can still do Joe a solid by sticking around here and hearing all
Joe
of our
still
bad,
a show.
People will probably watch
no
because
Joe
the
still a
Bills
show.
beat the Ravens and they get to poke fun at me, so it's okay. I'll be
Absolutely.
It's a win-win.
It's still worth hanging around for. Speaking of which, guys, let's put on our fan hats here for a moment, right? Every single person in this room got into this business because you like football or you love football to some degree, right? I don't think anybody here woke up and said, you know what, that game that I really don't like, I'm going to dedicate my life to talking about it. Yeah. So let's put on our fan hats here. Let's talk about the Bills Chiefs. How many of us in this room are Bills fans this weekend? How many are Chiefs fans this weekend? And is it because you genuinely like the Bills or you're just sick of the Kansas City Chiefs? Peter Bukowski, you always bring the hot take, so I want to start with you.
Well, I feel like now there's a lot of pressure on me to say that I'm cheering for the Chiefs because I know everyone else is going to say that they're cheering for the Bills. But I think the best thing for the NFL is and I said this to Kevin, I think a week ago, I said the best thing for the NFL is for either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen to win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes having an actual rival is the best thing that could happen in the NFL. And remember, this happened with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, where Brady just owned that rivalry. And then Peyton Manning in the AFC Championship game, one of the craziest comebacks we have ever seen. They got that. I wouldn't say the script flipped, right? Like Brady still ultimately like owned Manning, but getting that, it carried them for like 10 more years of rivalries. And if Patrick Mahomes wins again and they win the Super Bowl again, it's just sort of like, I kind of feel like, why do we even have a regular season? Because like, who cares? The Chiefs kind of felt that way. It seemed like for the first 8-10 weeks of the season too. Yeah. So I'm just sort of like, man, they have to serve some sort of penance for not giving a crap about the first 10 weeks of the season. And I hope Josh Allen can deliver that because I think it'd be great for the game.
Yeah. Damian Parson, I mean, your first time through here, buddy. So I want to kick this over to you pretty quick. Where is there a value? Should football fans, generally speaking, obviously Bills fans don't want to see the Chiefs win another Super Bowl, and whoever plays the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is not going to want to see them win. But general football fans, is there a value to seeing the first ever three-peat in the Super Bowl era? Is there a value to that?
Somewhat, right? Because it creates more hatred for Mahomes and the Chiefs, which it's like the Floyd Mayweather effect. Every time Floyd fought, people tuned in hoping and praying he lost. And it's going to be the exact same thing. LeBron James deals with the same thing, right? When he was on his run, whether it was with the Cavs or with the Heat, anytime he was on the championship team, even with the Lakers, when they were in the playoffs, in those big moments, people watched, hoping and praying LeBron lost, hoping and praying his team did not win the NBA title. So I definitely think it has some value. I'm just hoping that the value does not come to fruition.
Yeah. Kevin Oestreicher, Locked On Ravens. I want to throw you a very not football focused question. So I really hope you got your fan hat on here. Should there be a side wager? If the Chiefs win, you get to keep Taylor Swift on the television screen. But if the Bills win, Haley Steinfeld's got to get some burn here.
No,
Should there be a coverage death match happening here to where one or the other gets shown on TV, the other one disappears forever?
I just feel like the NFL is always going to side with Taylor in this, and that just feels like the reality. I mean, we've seen it. Obviously, she brings eyes to the game, and not that Haley wouldn't and doesn't, but obviously the Taylor Swift effect is very real.
My eyes, I'll be honest.
I kind of look at it though. It's like if the Chiefs lose, Haley replaces Taylor as the NFL, like, that's who brings the eyes to the screen. But I feel like, to me, people would be less inclined with the whole like Chiefs repeat. This is so annoying if we didn't have the Patriots just do this for years and years and years before. It feels like we just kind of went from, okay, the Patriots dominate the league for a decade plus, and here we are now. We just went right into, like, literally it was a segue. You could see the Patriots dynasty fall and the Chiefs dynasty rise up, and there was no in between of 5 years of different champions. It was right from Patriots to the Chiefs. So I feel like people are just ready for some parity. Like, let's get 5 years of just like different champs, or maybe a team wins twice in 5 years and the other three are different teams. And not taking away from how great the Chiefs team is. I mean, it takes a lot to go to 7 straight AFC championship games. Yeah. To me, it feels like there's just like this. We've seen this before. It's been happening forever. We want something different.
It is crazy that I thought we'd never see a quarterback that could do the things that Aaron Rodgers did on the field, and then Mahomes is like right after him. And I never thought we would see a quarterback control and win games the way that Tom Brady did. And Patrick Mahomes, he's still playing, and Tom Brady played for a million years, but to have it happen right after, like, we don't see that happen. Like, there was a gap between Michael Jordan and LeBron James, a pretty big gap of like when Jordan in his prime, right? Like, I know Kobe was in there too, and Allen Iverson. Like, there's some really great players, but there was a whole discussion of like, who's going to carry the torch. And it took, until, the early 2010s for LeBron to start winning titles. And so, like, this is really, in sports, we don't see this happen. Like, you don't go from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't happen. And the fact that it is, I think Kevin's totally spot on about this. Like, people are just ready for it to be open the same way that they were when the Warriors were winning all the titles. It was just sort of like, it almost felt preordained, and that's not fun. Like, we don't want that.
No, I think
you hit the nail on the head, man. I think we're dealing with exhaustion of dynasties, and again, in the league that has the most parity, and I think the NFL still has the most parity of all pro sports leagues, but still you have this team constantly at the top. Landon, I do want to kick it over to you. Locked On Cowboys. Tell us what happens, man. Do you think the Bills are going to pull this off, and finally Patrick Mahomes is going to have a true rival that can actually beat him, or are we all doomed to another year of Chiefs Kingdom?
I hope they can pull it off, because I'll tell you what, I mean, I think just from a personal side, I just think the Bills fans deserve this. I mean, I think you talk about like how long they've been long suffering, and frankly, as the perpetrator of 2 of their Super Bowl losses, 35 years or whatever it was ago, the last time we were relevant in the NFL. I think that, I feel for like the kind of long suffering. I saw that commercial the other night where the guy's like, and they put prosthetics on his face, and he's the Bills fan. He's young, and then he's old. And he's in with his grandson. I'm like, man, they've never actually won a Super Bowl in his entire lifetime or beyond that. And it's like, it's tough. Yeah. So I think from that point of view, just to see kind of a really great fan base that's kind of beloved in a kind of a smaller sports venue. I think it'd be incredible just to see, and I know that's tough for Kevin to hear it right now, but I think if he's able to look past fandom, I think it's
I mean, Ravens fans have a Super Bowl in somewhat recent history, right? Like maybe not the last handful of years, but
2 in 20 years. I mean, you'll take that.
You have some Lombardis in your building that are older than 9/11, right? Like, that's, I don't know if that's like the benchmark we really want to use here, but Cody Rourke, Locked On Broncos, will give you the last call on this game. Is it going to be Bills, or is it going to be Chiefs? And keep in mind, most of the no show people have probably already left, so we don't need to suck up the Bills.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's going to root for the Bills just because, they're not necessarily a villain, right? You look at the Chiefs as like a villain right now. Everybody does. The national media, certainly when we were all watching the game, even Troy Aikman flipped the script a little bit and was like, this is ridiculous. Stuff. Some of the penalties that were coming up. And right now the Chiefs are the villain. And I think they thrive in that role. And I think they embrace it. They love it. And the Bills are this team that, there were some people that were writing them off early on in the season. And I think some people in the national media who don't really bring credibility to football discussion, like the Emmanuel Achos of the world, don't really feel like they bring value and substance to it. But the Bills have a gripe. Like, you look at Josh Allen, the narrative surrounding him was, well, he can't do it without a legit wide receiver like Stephon Diggs. Well, they brought in Stephon Diggs. Things didn't go well. They lose to Joe Burrow and the Bengals one year in the playoffs at home. There's all this conversation and drama. Josh Allen doesn't have as great of a receiving talent or crew around him, but I think he's got a more balanced team. You got a good run game with James Cook. You got Ty Johnson. You got Kincaid at tight end, who's very talented. Amari Cooper, he ain't the guy he used to be, but he can still produce. Keon Coleman, Kalush Curtin, you got a guy who, you absolutely hate if you're going against a Mac Hollins, but if he's on your team, you love him. They can punch you in the mouth, and Josh Allen against the Ravens didn't have to really use his arm to do that. It was the run game. And the way that defense is playing, Matt Milano is an absolute piss missile. That team right now, I think Buffalo would be easy to root for against a villain like Kansas City. And luckily, we get to watch that this weekend.
Yeah, look, I'm with a lot of what you guys have said. I've been to Bills games just as a football fan, just living in upstate New York. So I want to see football in person, and that fan base is wild, man. They definitely deserve a championship. But there's another fan base that deserves a championship. Hasn't had to wait as long as the Bills fan base has. It's the Washington Commanders fan base, and they've got a quarterback that if Josh Allen can't get the job done, they think maybe he can get the job done against Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about the NFC Championship game coming up next on this episode of NFL Squad, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers to FanDuel, you can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. In fact, they've even got a fun side bet game, the Kick of Destiny 3. Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, one of the Manning brothers, is going to make the kick of destiny. You pick which Manning brother you think is going to make the kick, and if you're right, you get to split a pot of $10 million in bonus bets. It's free to play right now at FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com, join today, and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We've been talking AFC Championship game here on the Locked On NFL Squad episode, of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to switch it over now to the NFC Championship game. The Washington Commanders visiting the Philadelphia Eagles, number 6 against number 2 in the NFC. And we're going to kick it back over to Kevin Ostreicher, Locked On Ravens. I know it's not the team from the DMV that you wanted to see trying to go to the big game, but you're kind of close to the situation. Quarterbacks are somewhat similar, at least athletically. So let me ask you this: Jayden Daniels, best rookie quarterback that the NFL has ever seen, or do you think he's not quite?
Man, I think he might have the best poise of a rookie quarterback I've ever seen. I mean, this guy's faced by literally nothing. And there was all these stats out, but obviously Jayden being a rookie and getting to the championship game, obviously I watched Joe Flacco do that as a rookie in Baltimore, and that was such an incredible season. And I think obviously the way, and even Mark Sanchez, like all three of these guys handled it differently going there. But the thing that stands out to me with Jayden is that he's just calm. Doesn't matter the stakes, doesn't matter the pressure. I mean, that's why the Commanders are where they are right now, is because some rookie quarterbacks fold under that pressure, and we've seen that over the course of a lot. But to me, this team, the Commanders, they go as Jayden Daniels goes. Right. This is what it is. And if Jayden isn't that calm, cool, and collected, and look at what do we got, Cody? What do we got? The VR
training, because that's the Jayden Daniels training.
Yeah.
Look at that. And maybe Jayden actually starts a trend here. Maybe Jayden is a trendsetter. And I think he will be in certain aspects. But this Commanders team, their poise comes from Jayden. And that's what I love about his game and what we've seen from him so far.
Yeah, and I mean, the truth be told, man, look, if the Chiefs can beat the Bills, Jaden's the only option here to be a quarterback that's going to defeat Patrick Mahomes, because the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, go for it.
Get Damien to chime in, because I don't get to ask him about other. I have him on to talk about the Packers players, but I don't get to ask him about other guys. Damien, I was a Jayden Daniels guy in the pre-draft. I thought he was the best quarterback in the draft. He was the guy that in the middle of the year when the Packers were not great in 2023, I was like, Jayden Daniels is the guy that I wanted Green Bay to draft. What did people miss about that? Because it didn't feel like there was the heat for him to be this. Like, people liked him. I know he went number 2 overall, but like, all of the heat was on Caleb, and then it was like, oh, Drake May's underrated. It seems like everyone missed this. Why do you think that is?
A lot of times, the age thing, the how long guys play in college football, that is such and it's honestly a big thing in college basketball as well, where they hold it against guys, right? If you're a basketball player, you stay till you're a senior, you're not any good, we shouldn't draft you in the lottery. It's the same thing with the NFL, especially at quarterback. And for him, it was a lot of misnomers that, hey, he won't make those throws in the middle of the field, which is where NFL quarterbacks need to live and thrive. And we've seen it, in his rookie year, he's been able to do that. I talked to a LSU, someone who worked with him, worked at LSU on the coaching staff before he left after the draft. And I asked him, I said, tell me about Jayden. He said, he's one of the coolest, calmest, collective guys I've ever been around. The main thing he drilled to me was self-awareness. He said he's very self-aware. If he makes a mistake on the field, he comes to the sideline, the first thing he says to him, I messed that up. I messed that up, didn't I? And he was like, yeah. He said, okay. Then they look at what happened and they go out and he corrects those mistakes. To watch him play the way he plays, I think the frame also, people say he took those cartoon hits in college, right? Like where you just see him get hit.
Forget Lamar Jackson did that too. Like I think if you go back and watch Lamar Jackson in Louisville, he's taking hit. Like I went back and found it in my draft notes. I was like, what is he doing? Like, you're 190 pounds. What are you doing?
He has improved on that, by the way.
And you know what? Jaden has too, actually. In 1 year, he's gotten better.
The crazy thing is, Jayden Daniels did it right away. He walked into the NFL and is just like, no, I can avoid hits now. And it's like, well, then why didn't you do it for 2 years? I was just like, what?
His football IQ is through the roof, because if he sees what he wants pre-snap and he identifies what you're in, you're done, essentially. Because he's one of those quarterbacks. He played a lot of football. He's very decisive, and he knows how to find the mismatches. That's a key part of playing quarterback, and he does that at a great level.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you guys, leaving Indianapolis last year, every single person on the Commanders beat that was in Indianapolis, I can tell you without a doubt, every single one of us was Jaden is quarterback number 1, and we were all just praying the Chicago Bears didn't realize it. And I know there were multiple members of the Chicago media that were in Indianapolis who were praying that the Bears realized that I don't want to say make a mistake. That's not fair to Caleb, right? But like in the aspect of getting the best quarterback in the draft, that's where a lot of people were. We do need to talk Philadelphia Eagles. As much as I would love for this to just be a Jayden Daniels. Let me get to the Eagles one real quick, Peter. We'll come back to your question. I won't forget you. I promise.
About the Commanders.
We do need to talk about the Eagles, and I want to go to Landon McCool here because you obviously know both of these teams. Saquon Barkley. Is Saquon Barkley going to be enough to get the Eagles past the Commanders, or are the Commanders going to be the team in the Super Bowl? Because Saquon, if you look at the stat box, had a lot of stats in both games against the Washington Commanders. But in that first game, the Commanders held a fourth quarter lead. In the last game, obviously, the Commanders won that game. So both of those situations prove that Saquon by himself, not necessarily going to get the job done himself. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think, they've had to work around Jalen Hurts even more these playoffs than it seems like in the recent past. And it's worked. I mean, obviously they've won, they've gotten as far as they have. I do wonder, just watching Washington, their ability to be able to slow down, Saquon. I think that's a major concern, is that Jayden Daniels, and as excited as everyone is about Jayden Daniels, that he may not have a ton of opportunity in this game if Eagles are able to possess the ball the way that I'm assuming they're going to, especially with the way that the Eagles play defense, not just the volume of the efficiency that they play, but the actual X's and O's of the way that they play defense. They're going to slow things down, and it's going to, I think, try to get eyes on Jayden Daniels and try to just slow things down to a grind. And if they can get that, I think that's going to play right into the Eagles' hands. So they're going to, if that's the case, I think you're going to see a lot of Saquon Barkley. And until Dan Quinn can figure out a way to kind of, load up the box to kind of get that going, then we'll see if they can stop Jalen Hurts in the kind of design pass plays when he's got his outside receivers in one-on-one situations.
Yeah, 100%. Peter, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I wanted to know from the group, because we're probably not going to talk about the coaching stuff. Ben Johnson to the Chicago Bears.
We are going to talk about the coaching stuff.
Okay. But he had the opportunity to go to Washington last year. Do you think in retrospect, whether he was going to pick Jayden or not, he thinks that was given what we've seen of Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams, all due respect to Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league this year. I think someone was on the squad show saying he was the best quarterback in the NFC. I can't remember who that was.
It was Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers.
Do you think he regrets not taking that job in Washington a year ago?
Maybe. I mean, it's tough because, there's still some uncertainty. It was an organization that was going through widespread changes and transitions of ownership. For a coach, and especially for a guy who's going to be a first-time head coach, are you going to a place where they're going to fulfill their promises? And certainly ownership groups, as we've seen, can be the negative side of an NFL team. Having the right ownership in place, that actually can help you. And I think that they've proven so far it's been good. But for Ben Johnson, maybe at the time, it was a little risky considering the unknowns.
Well, and
I'll tell you, I don't think Ben Johnson should regret anything. And the reason I'll say that is the reason this fell apart between Ben Johnson and the Commanders is not because of anything. Oh, it's because of philosophical reasons, right? So Josh Harris went out and hired Adam Peters. He and Adam Peters had a very clear, and they were very much in agreement with how they wanted the Washington Commanders team to be. Like, what is it going to be a Washington Commander? He and Adam Peters had a very clear agreement on what that was going to be, and they sought out a coach that agreed with what that was going to be. Ben Johnson didn't agree with Adam Peters and Josh Harris's vision of what a Washington Commanders team was going to look like. Therefore, that's why things fell apart, and they found the guy in Dan Quinn who does see that. So I think it comes down to coaches and teams and GMs and everybody involved being on the same page. I think it's incredibly important because, truthfully, if Ben wasn't willing to come off some of the things that he wasn't willing to come off of, I don't think Adam Peters is going to hire him anyway. So it kind of actually saves him a little bit of face, because you can't go from being the number one target, having a plane flown privately to your location, to not getting the job. That makes you look a lot worse than you bowing out of the race. So I think that honestly, he probably made the right decision for him if those are some of the sticking points that were there. But we are going to talk more about these coaching journeys, but I do need to get 2 predictions here. Cody Rourke, Locked On Broncos, David Parson, Locked On NFL Draft. I need to know who's winning, Commanders or Eagles this weekend. Damien, we'll start with you.
I'm going Commanders, man. I'm a big JD5 fan. I'm just pulling for him, man. No disrespect to Philly. I like Saquon. I love Saquon, actually.
Some disrespect to Philly.
Some disrespect to Philly. If I was Landon, well, it'd be 100% disrespect to Philly. But
full disrespect to Philly. I mean,
full disrespect. But I'm going JD5. I'm going with the Commanders, man.
Let's go.
I'm going to go with the Commanders in the upset. I think the Eagles, I think Saquon's going to get his. The biggest wild card that will determine whether or not the Eagles win or lose, I think it's all going to come down to Jalen Hurts in this game, to be honest with you. But Saquon, obviously a dog. I mean, I think the formula, and we can talk about it later on, with some of these teams who are, perennial playoff or on the outside looking in, trying to get to the playoffs, what they could do to replicate what we've seen. But I think Jayden Daniels, the Commanders, that story, I think it's going to be Commanders versus Bills in the Super Bowl.
That's the matchup all the other fans want, and I'm all for it because don't threaten me with covering a Super Bowl. I'm all for it. Look, we don't have to worry about offending Eagles fans because I hear up in Philly they say no Louis, no Viewey, so they're not here anyway. We're going to talk about the NFL coaching carousel next here on Locked On's NFL Squad, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be challenging. Well, that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match the licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNFL, promo code SPACE80. Wrapping up this NFL squad episode for this week. And you know what? It just kind of dawned on me. We've got a very large prediction happening here that the Commanders and the Bills are going to be in the Super Bowl. So I actually really quick want to go around. Let's put all 5 of you on the spot. We're probably going to talk about this between now and the big game. But Commanders, Bills, who wins that Super Bowl? We'll start with Cody and we'll just go around the horn.
Hey, great for a rookie quarterback and obviously, a new head coach in their first year together to get to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills are the team of destiny and will finally get that Super Bowl win that has been eluding them for quite some time. And then it really changes the conversation, but it also sets the stage for the young guys like Jayden Daniels, maybe Bo Nix, maybe some other guys, Jordan Love, like the young quarterbacks. The NFL's in a good spot, I think, going forward, but Josh Allen's going to run away with it at this point.
Landon, you're next.
Bills, just simply because I can't take it anymore. I couldn't take that. Sorry.
Fair.
Bills. I think Josh Allen. I think he gets it done. He steps into the phone booth, puts the cape on, takes off the glasses, throws away the briefcase. Superman comes out. He has a heroic type of game on the biggest stage of them all, and he go ahead and submit himself as one of the best ever.
I'm gonna go Bills also. They're a heck of a team, and I think that they've improved in a lot of areas over the course of the season. And I know that everyone thought trading away Diggs would have a negative impact, but it actually has opened up their offense a lot more. And I just feel like, if you want to talk about it, I feel, listening to the champs, it's okay. If you lose to the champs, you take that. So I'll go Bills.
This is boring. I'm gonna go Commanders then. Forget that. Like I'm gonna take Jayden Daniels. Like give me Jayden Daniels. The Buffalo Bills just won a football game where Josh Allen did not even get to 150 yards passing.
He didn't get to 130.
It is one of those things where Jayden Daniels. What I saw in Detroit, I know that defense was just like on beyond fumes. They were getting out and they were pushing the car to the gas station.
they had the 6 of us out there.
All fumes. But the poise that he played with, the dual threat ability that he has, I just think I think he can be the kind of guy that puts on the Superman cape and just says, I'm gonna do something historic here. I think the way that you're playing in the playoffs matters so much, and nothing drives offensive success, offensive efficiency like quarterback play. The quarterback playing the best football right now, and really for like the last month, is Jayden Daniels. Go back and watch what he did against the Philadelphia Eagles 3 weeks ago. He lit them up. No one has done what Jayden Daniels did against the Eagles since October. He is that guy, and if he's going to be that guy, why not put your stamp on it? Go win the Super Bowl as a rookie. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. So why not make it fully historic? Him do something we've never seen.
Yeah, Landon, that's a bigger flex if Marcus Mariota doesn't come in after halftime and torch the Cowboys defense.
Well, actually, I think it's a bigger comment on maybe Jayden Daniels not being as spectacular.
That's not true.
Oh, come on.
Where's the James Rapine clip from earlier in the year?
So Sammy Baugh is the only quarterback in history, in pro football history, to have a championship win as a rookie, of course, for Washington. So Jayden Daniels winning a Super Bowl as a rookie would just add to that kind of lineage there. And listen, for those who are fans of the NFL being scripted, Jayden Daniels beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is actually the way to go, because the way that probably goes is the Chiefs have 10 penalties called against them while the Commanders have less than 5. And then next year, the Commanders visit the Chiefs. Obviously, it wouldn't be week 1 because the Commanders would get a home game in week 1, but eventually they visit Kansas City, and this quote unquote rivalry that we're trying to figure out for Patrick Mahomes could potentially be born if everything is scripted. We do have to get to the coaching searches. The notes here say head coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, and whatever. So Landon McCool, clearly the whatever is for you. What's going on with the Dallas Cowboys?
I think whatever sums it up pretty good. I mean, they're just taking their time at this point and trying to do whatever they can to get into the news cycle. I mean, they had an interview with Brian Schottenheimer, who wasn't even calling plays for them last year, and now he's going to be the head coach. I don't think so. I just think that they're trying to insert themselves into the conversation. Their two most hated rivals, or two of their most hated rivals, are in the conference championship game. I don't know if anyone's mentioned that, by the way. And so Jerry Jones is hurting because Cowboys fans are screaming and yelling. So that's why you're hearing names like Deion Sanders, despite the fact that Deion Sanders hasn't gotten an official interview. Brian Schottenheimer is probably being interviewed for an offensive coordinator job, depending on who the actual head coach is. But you're hearing all about it in the news because Jerry's trying to keep, the organ grinder grinding, right? Keep it grinding. And so that's what you're seeing. So I think we're going to have an answer in probably, a week or so, maybe, or depending on, who loses in these next round. I think he definitely wants to talk to Kellen Moore, maybe even Cliff Kingsbury. So, and I'm hoping Joe Brady, if Joe Brady, were to fall out of the playoffs for some reason. So, but I think they're just kind of trying to keep their name in people's mouths for a little
Jerry
while.
Jones has not requested to interview Billy Bob Thornton or John Hamm yet.
Not yet. I mean, listen, he is giving lessons on acting if anyone needs him.
I will say that was pretty pro.
Yeah. Damian Parson, Locked On NFL Draft. Which of these, I want to say open jobs, but we'll include, the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, even though they've hired their new coaches. Which of these teams that's going to have a new head coach this offseason has the best draft assets to really make a move like the Washington Commanders did this year or the Houston Texans the year before?
I think it's the Patriots. Being they have the 4th pick, hiring Vrabel and bringing in Josh McDaniels, you have your quarterback. Now you can go in the litany of ways, whether it's Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter. You can grab one of these blue chip prospects and improve your team right away. Travis Hunter being that dual threat, that just athlete. We haven't seen a guy like that that has that tag. Typically, guys coming out of high school have that tag where I play wide receiver and I play corner. It's up to you, coach, to figure out which one I'm going to play. This guy can come in and play both. And I think, honestly, when you look at that Patriots receiving core, I might lean for him to play wide receiver. So for a team for them to be in the position they're in, and you don't trade of course, if a team tricked themselves with that whole QB thing, like I want to reach for the third best quarterback that I can get them on day 2. Like if they want to reach up and try and move up to 4, cool. But if I'm New England, I'm staying right where I am. I'm picking one of the top players off the board, and let's go ahead and inject this team with some talent.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hear you. Peter Bukowski. Well, you know what? First, actually, before we get to that, I want to go to Cody Rourke. What do you think about the New England Patriots doing this Back to the Future act? What do you think about all this?
Look, I think Mike Vrabel is going to be great for that culture there in terms of that. I know Gerard Mayo tried to instill that. And look, I still think that the Patriots, the way they went about with Gerard Mayo, I didn't like it. I mean, obviously they had a guy in mind already in Vrabel, which I found it a little interesting because Dan Orlovsky early on in the year said, hey, don't worry, Vrabel's already got something lined up if things continue to go poorly in one destination. Everyone already thought New England turned out that way. I don't agree with how they did it, but I mean, Vrabel makes sense for that job. And then now you go and you bring in Josh McDaniels, you bring him back. What's next? Tom Brady going to come out of retirement and play quarterback again? I mean, it's certainly in the stars here. I think New England's probably an appealing job because, and obviously Vrabel, that's the reason he took it. You're going to have a lot of salary cap space. You're going to have good draft capital to work with. You're in a good position to add a playmaker here. And you saw from Drake May, I don't know how many times we've done the squad show, or, we've had Mike Debate say, get Drake May some playmakers. This is the opportunity to do that. Is it still going to be enough right now to compete with the Buffalo Bills? Probably not. And look, but maybe they can climb up ahead of the Jets and they can climb up ahead of the Miami Dolphins. But that's the job I'm very curious to see. But can we also maybe talk about the most unappealing job? Look, I understand you only have 32 of them every year.
No.
But it's rarely open up. The New York Jets job has to be one of the most unappealing jobs to take if I'm any potential coach.
Well, I want to let me pause you there, Cody, because actually that's what I want to ask Peter Bukowski about. Because Peter, the smoke around that Jets job is Aaron Glenn, Lance Newmark, one former Lion, currently commander for however long that's going to last, and then one soon to be former Lion. What do you think of that tandem? From what you know about what they did in Detroit or help be a part of in Detroit, what do you think about that tandem going to New Jersey?
I think Aaron Glenn is a hell of a coach. Matt Derry and I had a running bit about future head coach Aaron Glenn because for like 2 or 3 years he was tagged as a future head coach, and I kept watching those defenses going, these defenses suck. Like, what are we talking about here? And then this last year, oddly enough, with it is the proverbial making chicken salad out of chicken something else. And like what they were able to do for long stretches without their best players, with, like somehow 15 of their 11 starters were injured. And it was just sort of like a crazy phenomenon there. And everyone you talk to in Detroit raves about him, from the players to the coaches to like, the parking attendants. Like everyone just loves Aaron Glenn. The Saints, Ross Jackson, our guy, would love Aaron Glenn in New Orleans. So I really like that pairing in New York. And like the Jets have to be thanking their lucky stars that Aaron Glenn played in New York. Otherwise, I don't know why he would want that job over any other opportunity that he would get. They don't have a quarterback. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is coming back. You got to deal with Woody Johnson Sr. You've got to deal with Woody Johnson, the juniors. It doesn't matter what their names are. You don't even tell me what their names are. It doesn't matter. And like they have 17-year-olds in the front office meetings. What are we talking about? Yeah. It is a disaster area, and I don't know why anyone would want to go. Like they are like my son's favorite song still, even though we're past Christmas, is Grinch. I don't know why you'd want to go near that job with a 39.5 foot pole. It's toxic.
Yeah, as long as that ownership situation, as far as like how involved the ownership is, I should say, stays the same. I don't know how anybody can be successful in that position. So to Cody's point, I like Lance a lot. I've gotten to know him just a little bit here as the assistant GM for the Commanders this year. Great dude, cool dude. Really enjoyed him. If he takes that job, buddy, good luck to you. I'll be rooting for you, but I don't know if it's going to go very well. Kevin Oestreicher, I want to finish up this week's episode talking to you. Which of these open jobs, so no Bears, no Patriots, which of these open jobs would you take if you had your choice?
I'm going to go.
And you can't fire Harbaugh.
Well, that's not happening anyway. I'm going to go maybe off the grain a little bit. I'm going to say Las Vegas. I'm going to say Las Vegas. And the reason is I think there's a lot of room to grow there. I think that there's a lot of, you can shape that team the way, like you're right. The Jets, that's just going to be someone else's decision. Like there's always going to be someone who's over top of you. The Jaguars job, Trevor Lawrence is that quarterback. And, you don't get your choice there. I think that fresh slate, like you get to choose who comes in. You get to choose what direction you go in. Do you want to swing big at a quarterback here? Do you want to maybe wait a year or two? Do you want to beef up your defense? I think that with the Bears job being gone, with the Patriots job being gone, I just feel like a blank canvas is honestly what I'd want to sign up for at this point, as opposed to maybe a team that has a couple more good assets, but there's not as much flexibility.
Is that going to be the coaches?
Ben Johnson will tell you that Chicago is where he always wanted to be because they just gave him $17 million a year to do that job. But I heard from multiple people that were very close to that situation that said that Ben Johnson was close to signing in Las Vegas, that they had cleared the decks for him. The Tom Telesco firing was part of clearing the decks for Ben Johnson, and that the people in Las Vegas – talk to your boy Q. I know that he's all over this. They are pissed at the way this went down because they thought this was not a done deal because it's never done until the name's at the bottom of the contract. But they thought this was happening, and I had someone who knows a lot of things say that they wonder if there was a little bit of panic post Jayden Daniels, post Jared Goff after that playoff game that he was all set to go to Las Vegas, and then he was like, oh no. I just watched what happened with Jared Goff. I need to have a different quarterback plan here. I need to find a more creative opportunity, and that's what sold him on Chicago. That is just someone speculating, but someone who knows, they know a lot. So it was one of those things that when they said that, I kind of stood up and took notice.
I'm just going to say this right now, and I don't mean any respect to him, but the more I hear about Ben Johnson's decision-making process, the happier I am that he's not in Washington. I'm just
Have you noticed we've heard an awful lot about what he thinks and what he wants, and like on the record, way more than we've ever heard from like a hot offensive coordinator name. Like it just seems weird to me. Like we knew a year and a half ago what he wanted out of a head coaching job. It's like, you have a job, bro. What are you doing?
Cowboys fans are livid that Ben Johnson's not part of that process. And I was like, but look what he's asking for. There's in no way would the Joneses ever give that up to anyone. And frankly, I understand the Joneses may not be the model of how you should be running a franchise, but I cannot believe that more people weren't pushing back on what he was asking for. Like personnel control, when you're a first-time head coach and you're play calling, like that's a lot to put on.
When has that ever worked? Can you point to me?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to pretend that I was like Dan Quinn number one from the jump because I wasn't, but I'm also not going to sit here and say I was Ben Johnson number one throughout any stage of that process as well. And obviously, I'm very happy with the way that turned out. Very happy with the way that this NFL Squad episode turned out as well. So thank you to all these illustrious hosts for joining. Thanks for all of you out there, Bills Mafia especially, who are still here hanging out to the end of this episode for watching. We will be here every single week. And of course, each of us is here for you every single day, bringing you the latest on your favorite NFL teams and the NFL draft. Damian Parson, shout out to you for coming through. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're not missing a minute of the coverage. All of it part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.